A rhythmic bubbling came from a small 5-gallon fish tank which sat upon the weathered fiberboard of some manner of shoddy, build-it-yourself table. A lone fancy-tailed goldfish of orange and black swam within the tank, accompanied by a lifeless Lego diver and gold-filled treasure chest amidst the multicolored stones. A skull-shaped cave with the paint half gone and overgrown with algae sitting center tank like some manner of obelisk. Beyond the dimly lit and softly bubbling fish tank was the tiniest of offices, Spartan in every sense, as it seemed to possess only a small desk with a swivel chair, filing cabinet, and another chair, school-style, not office, which undoubtedly was for visitors or clients of the odd establishment. There was a corded phone on the desk, an old mug full of mismatched pens, faded and stained business cards in disarray amongst a rainbow brick road of post-it notes, each scribbled upon in near-illegible writing which seemed to use some manner of unrecorded shorthand. No pictures hung upon the walls, no frames or works of art. These were laid bare and showed their age by the snaking cracks in the plaster and stucco, some places crumbling and scattered with dust upon the faded wood floor paneling below. Even the door leading into the small office was chipping its paint and in need of attention, one hinge hanging by a single screw in warning that even that one may yet give way. There was a smudged glass panel on the door which, from the outside, read, Lawrence D. Gray, P.I. Fraud, cheating lovers, missing persons? Don't suffer the worry another day. Inquire inside for free consultation. The message conveyed seemed idonious for the environment in which the entire scene appeared to exist, especially as clear, clacking footsteps approached the lone office, keys rattling with intent as a clear whistling suddenly could be heard. The man which emerged from the dirty, graffiti-covered hallway looked completely out of place with his location, and then, yet again, upon second glance, looked as though he may belong after all. His long brown trench coat was faded, and after closer analysis it could be seen it was, once upon a dear time, black, as the insides of the pockets clearly demonstrated. This article was neither ironed nor even in color, as water stains showed through as though it had been worn through many a rainstorm without proper laundering. The briefcase in his hand looked expensive, until one noticed the Sharpie touch-ups on tears and scratches in the leather. His face, though fair in complexion, showed the definite signs of weather and age, unkempt stubble hanging upon his chin and cheeks in the same varying shades of gray of his combed-back hair. He was perhaps somewhere between 45 or 50 years of age, eyes a tamed shade of faded oak, approaching the lighter side of gray as well. Everything about him existing in a state of dinge or disrepair despite the cheer in his steady whistling. He was startled from said whistling of looking out my back door in a sharp instant, however, as he realized there was a middle-aged woman waiting impatiently by his office door. Strawberry blonde hair was pulled back away from her face as professionally done makeup etched 25-year-old features from a 35-year-old face. Her jewelry was expensive. Her skirt and suit jacket were expensive. Even her purse must have cost well over $1,000. For a moment, Lawrence Gray was stunned and didn't know how to react. Luckily, the woman and her piercing green eyes did. Mr. Gray, my name is Penelope Watcher. I heard of your services through the recommendations of a close personal friend, Kelly Jennison. She hired you to find out if her husband was honestly a two-timing, lying, filthy mire hog, and I wonder if perhaps you could do the same for me. The dagger-sharp nature of the woman's stare and the iron-like steadiness of her voice elicited a slow but confident nod from Lawrence, who even at 5'11" seemed to be looking this woman straight in the eyes. When he noticed her extremely expensive heels, however, it eased his sense of anxiety a bit. Unlocking his office door, he ushered Penelope inside as politely as he could. There's a chair there if you'd like to sit down. I'm sorry I haven't made any coffee yet or shaved. I usually don't have clients this early. He moved as he spoke, closing the door behind them both and quick-stepping for his desk so he could set down his briefcase and keys. He then strode over to the fish tank and withdrew a small electric coffee maker, along with all the various supplies from a cabinet and the table's shaky base. The woman took a swift glance about the office and wasted no time in declining his offer with a dry expression. I prefer to stand, and I've no need for your pleasantries, Mr. Gray. Will you or will you not accept the job? Lawrence was, again, caught off guard. He halted through his actions halfway, which ended with him still holding the empty coffee pot as he turned back to Penelope with a baffled expression. Are you sure? Quickly he set the coffee pot down and turned to face the woman once more. Riding smart-looking eyeglasses, he then folded his arms across a sturdy chest and blinked in question. Mrs. Watcher, I usually prefer to have a bit more information before I embark upon a new assignment. You'll excuse me for being wary of new clients bearing over $3,000 in personal effects on their person in a neighborhood known for its muggers. Who escorted you? The military, perhaps? To Lawrence's surprise, the woman responded with a much more level tone and even saw fit to sit down in the nearby chair in an elegant, ladylike fashion as she responded. Understandable. And legitimate concerns, to be certain. Would it clear the air to mention my maiden name is Balotelli? A look of both recognition and understanding passed visibly across the private detective's unshaven face. Penelope smirked subtly. Yes, it does indeed, doesn't it? Now, Obviously my claim is legitimate, and I'm more than capable of supplying your meager stipend. The question is, will you accept the job? Rubbing at his chin and cheeks with a nervous hand, Lawrence paced about his desk and took his seat from across the smartly dressed woman and her confident smile. It took him many moments to reply. Do we honestly have a choice? Of course you do, the woman scoffed indignantly. I'm not my father, Mr. Gray. If you'd prefer not to take the job, that is your prerogative. However, you'd be missing out on quite a bit. Should you provide evidence of my husband's disloyalty, I'm willing to pay your fee at 1,000% increase. Lawrence was forced to sit up in his chair. Oh, perked your ears, did it? Penelope asked dryly, hands folded neatly between her crossed legs. What is it you ask? $150 a day? And on average your adultery cases take you, what, 1 to 6 months? 2 to 3 if we really narrow down the average. That's roughly 60 to 90 days of work, multiplied by your cost and multiplied again by my inflated reward upon delivery pay, and that's 9 to 13.5 million. Certainly that's enough hazard pay even for you, Mr. Gray. Lawrence was stone-frozen and flabbergasted. His anxiety and blood pressure skyrocketed. You can't be serious, he muttered weakly, as though doing so took every ounce of energy he possessed, until he spoke again, louder and more certain. Over a cheating husband? Even if I solved it in ideal time, that's $4.5 million. You can't be serious. I'm quite serious, Mr. Gray. You should know full well that kind of money is nothing to me, especially if you should uncover exactly what I've predicted you will. What are you predicting? That he's a Russian spy plotting to poison Trump's fast food? Lawrence spat back with a look of incredulity. That he's not only a cheater, but a murderer. The detective instantly seemed to calm down, falling quiet as he weighed the woman's calm, steady words. Your father's a murderer. What difference is it to you if your husband is too? Because he promised he never had, nor would he ever take a life, Mr. Gray, and I take vows, promises, and oaths to be very serious things. If he is lying, I need to know. Why suspect him now? And if so, why not just take it to the police or your father? Lawrence shook his head and raised his hands up, dropping them again instantly in a show of desperation and annoyance. Penelope simply blinked and offered a half-lidded stare of boredom before turning to straighten her well-pressed skirt. Recently he's been giving me strange gifts that no longer adhered to my normal preferences. Odd things, collected as though from different people in different places with different tastes. Then I noticed a series of investigations in a number of small newspapers and places my husband frequently has business trips to. Procuring a file folder from her purse, she threw it deftly to land on the detective's desk. Within it were newspaper clippings illustrating what she'd been saying, scattered from location to location all over the United States and documenting missing girls between the ages of 21 and 25, all with hair and eyes the same shade as Penelope's. Lawrence lifted his gaze from behind his glasses to focus upon the woman across the desk from him. You notice it too. Good. Glad I'm not the only one, she remarked distantly. You need to take all of this to the police. Now. He attempted to toss the file folder back. But the woman waved a ring-bearing hand and shook her head slowly. I've many copies, and unfortunately, I've also no want for the police to become involved. You see, the police would arrest Stanley, lock him up and throw away the key. I want him to suffer, not live his life in government-penned luxury. A spark of something devilish and dangerous shone from behind the woman's eyes as she kept her gaze terrifyingly fixed upon Lawrence as she explained. I want him in my possession, forevermore, where I can strip his flesh away piece by bloody piece. I'm going to ruin that man, Mr. Gray, if it turns out he's lied to me. I'm going to remove each of his teeth and fingernails, one by one. He's going to be castrated, flogged, branded, beaten, you name it, Mr. Gray. I want confirmation of my suspicions, and then I will handle the rest, and I want absolutely no police interference. Lawrence looked as though he were going to speak, but Penelope interrupted him. And if you try to contact the police after I depart, you will find yourself with an extra hole in your head you really would rather not have. If you'll please turn to your rear window. Against his better judgment, Lawrence slowly turned around to see the barrel of some manner of handgun tap against the murky, half-paper-covered glass at his largest window. A black-haired young man kept hold of Lawrence's gaze for many moments as though making silent threats with his mere presence. Which worked beautifully as the detective slowly turned back towards Penelope. I see I really don't have a choice. I've told you already, Mr. Gray, you have a choice. Choose to decline my gracious offer and I walk out of here. That's it. End of story. You'll never see me or my assistants again. Try to contact police or an old police buddy, however. And I get ventilated. Okay, I get it. Fantastic. So glad we understand one another. Penelope rose fluidly and fixed the satin of her rose-white gloves as she stepped smartly towards the door. I'll give you 24 hours to think it over. Seems only fair. It is quite an undertaking should you accept. Have a good day, Mr. Gray. The last thing Lawrence could hear were the sounds of her expensive heels fading away down the graffiti-covered hallway, which left him suddenly at a very dangerous mental crossroads. Jumpin' Jehoshaphat, Jaws, did you ever think we'd get this kind of job offer? The man asked, throwing his arms into the air in dismay as he did so towards his lone goldfish. The fish, however, never seemed to emote. He merely blew bubbles towards his sitting master and swam diligently back and forth in the hopes of something else. Lawrence sighed suddenly as he realized he'd forgotten to feed the poor fish. I'm sorry, I didn't even get you your breakfast. Standing slowly, the man groaned under his breath as he rubbed at aching knees. Getting old don't pay enough, Jaws, he remarked aloud as he fetched the bottle of fish food from the cabinet beneath the tank. But boy, does that lady sure seem to be promising me the ocean. Penelope Balotelli. Haven't heard that name in a dog's age. Sharp woman she grew into, that's for sure. And on her game at that. There's definitely something fishy going on with old Stanley. He paused, catching his phrasing. Sorry, Jaws. That wasn't aimed at you. He set the fish food down, reached up to scratch at the back of his neck, and stepped slowly towards the other side of his tiny office. Well, it's quite a pickle. Take the job and get evidence this guy's a psychopath, possibly endangering myself in the process, or walk away. We have other clients, one of which is scheduled to show up today, and it looks to be a typical boring adultery case. Not anything like Penelope's Criminal Minds scenario. 4.5 million. Hell, it could be so much more than that. Ah! The private investigator growled in frustration and collapsed back into his swivel chair, clutching his own hair in desperation. What do we do, Jaws? Play it safe, or take what could be the last job we'll ever need to do? He then sighed, arms going slack at his sides as his gaze dropped towards his knees. Or the last job we ever attempt to do. Jaws, unfortunately, offered no help, thoroughly engrossed in trying to consume every last flake of fish food that had been lovingly deposited into his meager tank, which left Lawrence to deal with it all by himself. Thanks a lot, fish. Lawrence is at a crossroads. What path should he take? Path 1. Ambition. Should I take the job? I mean, 4.5 mil, maybe more. I'd never have to work again. I could buy Jaws a new tank. Hell, I'd buy a new house. I'd move out of state, somewhere quiet and warm, like Florida. Just soak up the sun, sit on my butt, and enjoy the rolling waves. Man, do I need a vacation. Path 2. Caution. I probably shouldn't take this job. I mean, I have another client set to show up today. Less risk, small reward, but at least I'd be in one piece. Who's to say the Stanley guy isn't a total nutjob? This is something the police should be handling. Maybe even the FBI. She has enough connections. This really is no job for me. Right, Jaws? Path 3. Martyrdom. I hate to say it, but I really should take this information to my buddy in the force. I know she told me not to, but hell, women are being murdered all over the place and nobody seems to know or care. This isn't something I can just sit on and make go away. I'd feel terrible if I just said no and did nothing. Those girls deserve justice and their families deserve closure. Path 4. Cowardice. What if I went to the FBI? I can give them this file folder. Yeah, they'll have to check it out. While I'm there, I can apply for federal protection because, well, I'll just tell them what Penelope told me. They have to put me in protective custody then, right? Right? Help Lawrence make up his very unsure mind. You control the story with your votes. Will you help unravel this mystery, or try and play it safe and save your hide? It's your choice, your decision, your story. So, what is your human nature? As always, thanks for listening, thanks for taking part, and remember, every story is worth telling, so tell it like the whole world is listening.